John Gotti Jr., I know from reading your book, I know from interviewing you before just how much you revered your father and revere his memory. Are you happy with John Travolta's depiction of Dad?
Over the moon with joy.
Really?
John did an amazing job.
If he's given you 5 stars, does that mean it was too sympathetic a portrayal of his father?
Well, sympathy is a different word than empathy or duplication. My job as an actor is to live up to an authenticity. So that's what I was doing. I have to become John Sr. That's my job. So how I feel about John Sr. has nothing to do with my portrayal of that. I am viewing through his eyes. So, you know, I have to do all the due diligence to earn that viewpoint. And John Jr. here helped me tremendously understand his father. Because, you know, imagine I'm growing up in New York as well, and I'm seeing the more glamorous side. You know, I'm seeing the Teflon Don and the suits and the glamour and the charm and the, you know, all that kind of high-end appeal. But I don't understand the, let's say, the structure of the mafia as we know it, or La Cosa Nostra, or any of the details. I don't know the family elements, and so that's my due diligence, that's my research. But my job is to be authentic about being John Gotti Sr. So I don't know if empathy or sympathy has anything to do with this.
How did you approach the due diligence? I know from John Jr. that you went into the house, you wanted to see the clothes, you wanted to get the whole vibe, but I'd rather hear it from you.
Well, all of that helps you build a character. I mean, that's my technique from day one. My mother was an acting teacher, and you know, I grew up knowing how to build a character. So you take all the elements and you only use what's necessary for the piece you're doing. But every single thing that I would listen to everything John said, because only through John's observation and John's mother's observation, Victoria, could you absorb the detail that you need to understand the characters. So how he felt, how Victoria felt, what I saw on video itself, or the family footage, all these elements added. John Jr. and Victoria were kind enough to allow me to wear the personal effects. So there was even the cologne scent from the overcoat, the tweed and velour overcoat from Senior. That helps. Do you know, the jewelry? I wore this beautiful jewelry, the scarves, it was all these bits help, besides my own personal observation of how, you know, because I'm a physical actor, I'm able to duplicate physicalities well. All this adds up to a performance that I felt I owed the family accuracy and attention to detail. Because look, I'm a famous face. You can't, I have more of a duty to delve deep into disappearing than your average actor. Because if you see me in it, you then are not lured into the storytelling process. So it was much more important, I felt, for me to do that.
Leaving Gotti off the table for this question, what's John Travolta's favorite mob movie?
The Godfather 1.
How come?
I thought it was beautifully structured, beautifully told, and visually perfect. You know, every great piece of art is interpretive. And what it did for me at a time in my life was just elevated me, and I got lost in that film. And what I like about our film compared to that, let's say, is that that was a tale, and this is truth. And I think this is the first, really, with a family supporting the truth, this is the first time it's ever been done.
Why do you think his father was so revered in certain quarters? I mean, in the movie, you see that celebration, the firework display, the police show up. He wants the fireworks to go off, and they go off. At the end of the movie, those real images where people are disappointed because he's been convicted at the end of the trial. I don't want to give away too much, but it's really stunning, right, that he was able to engender such support.
Well, this was my question because my memory of Capone and Dillinger was that they were not particularly liked or admired at the level. John Gotti Sr. was adored as a human being. I needed to understand why, because I only saw one side of it. I saw the side that most people saw. I went to, I think it was Long Island, where I interviewed the venues that your dad did business. And
And you went to Ozone Park as well. Actually, whatever shops are still open from my father's time.
What did you learn?
The old florist shop and whatnot.
I learned something that started to solve my riddle, which was why he was so loved. I didn't understand hither to that point that small businesses, which have a hard time surviving, could very easily go into the red. Well, John Gotti Sr. was able to put them back into the black and into profit, so nobody ever went out of business.
Do you think that his father would have been comfortable today looking down at how he was able to disassociate himself from the mob and walk away from that life?
I'm taking a guess, but yes, because of the following. I don't think it was the same game that John Sr. grew up with. I don't think La Cosa Nostra existed anymore. And he observed that whatever the success was of that life was no longer as valid as it was in his day. So my feeling is that John Jr. got out at the right time. John had a very sincere and honest care and concern about his family, more than whether the mob was going to work anymore or not. Dad would be say, you know what, that wasn't bad timing. You got out of Dodge at the right time because you could have gotten into more trouble.
Do you worry that this all glamorizes the life?
I don't actually at all, because how glamorous is it to be dying of stage 4 cancer in prison and your son, who you adore, is on the other side and you can't be with him or the rest of your family? How glamorous is it, all these stressful court cases and this is a group that lived on a cliff. Do you know? I mean, the glamorous part is they had a sexy life, but I mean, underneath that, I mean, let's look at it. You know, honestly, I think this film looks at it for the first time in a very truthful way.
And I agree. And you have to look at it from this perspective. My father did make it look glamorous because he looked glamorous. He was handsome. He was easy to look at. He was erect. His hair was perfectly coiffed. His clothes were tailor-made, custom-made. Okay, nobody had the same suit my father had. Nobody had the same tie my father had. We made sure of that. We wanted him always to be special, okay? And he carried it in a special way. However, what most people don't know is that he spent, as my brother Peter said, so many thousands of meals alone in his cell, eating that meal by himself.
Yep.
He spent 10 years in solitary confinement, his last days handcuffed to a bed, and if I show you his death certificate, he choked on his own blood and vomit. That's when he died. He suffocated because all the muscles were corroded and collapsed around his throat. So he suffocated on his own vomit and blood, okay? I don't call that glamorous.
I enjoyed the movie. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.